Occupational therapy in a school-based elementary setting focuses on helping children to fulfill their role as a student. Occupational therapists help children participate in their daily school activities and occupations so they can more effectively participate in learning. In a typical elementary school, there are 1 to 2 OTs, as well as possible additional codas that meet with children either individually or in a group 1 or 2 times a week. OT sessions can be done either in another room or in the classroom, and they work to support both academic and non-academic occupations. Interventions often focus on aspects of formal education like reading, writing, and math, as well as life skills like self-regulation, behavior management, social participation, and play. Additionally, OTs may help to improve healthy learning environments, classroom designs, and accommodation access. Most OTs work with children who qualify through an IEP. An IEP is an individualized education plan that is a collaborative document drawn up by teachers, parents, psychologists or doctors, and any other specialists, often including occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy, and/or a tutor. An IEP indicates the services and accommodations that will be provided, as well as the goals that are set for any child living with a disability. It is due to an IEP that OTs are available to perform evaluations and establish interventions that they believe will help the child most effectively engage in the classroom. One example of a child like this is Anthony.
Anthony is an 8-year-old child with autism spectrum disorder. He is part of a 2nd grade classroom with 25 of his peers. Anthony loves playing video games, whether they are on his mom's cell phone or on a console in his playroom at home. He also loves cars, trucks, planes, trains, and boats. At school, Anthony engages in formal education where he needs to attend the information being presented to him, as well as interact with his peers and school community. Anthony puts value in his ability to play with his choice of toys. His body functions are normal for his developmental age, except for his higher level cognitive functions. The higher level cognition, like judgment, attention, perception, emotional regulation, as well as global mental functions like temperament and motivation, are challenging for Anthony. He has strong motor skills like coordination and ambulation. He can easily move around his environment and coordinate his body to perform his occupations. Anthony's body structures function normally. He struggles the most with process and social interaction skills. His motor systems are intact. He does very well with topics that he enjoys. It is easy for him to inquire about trains or handle a toy truck. Anthony is proficient at organization. He has a more difficult time pacing an activity, heeding a task, performing actions in a sequence without interruptions, noticing or responding to cues, and adjusting. When it comes to social interaction, Anthony is able to produce speech and question by asking for additional facts and information, especially when it comes to boats and planes. Anthony struggles with most every other part of social interactions. For example, he is unable to engage in successful social exchanges with his peers. He struggles with facing the person he is talking to and regulating impulsive behaviors. He does not take turns in social interaction, match language, or clarify. One of his biggest struggles is with transitions in conversation.
Anthony has the role of being a 2nd grade student. Anthony has quite a few habits within the classroom. He avoids interacting with peers and often withdraws when other students attempt to engage with him. Anthony also tends to become upset when the classroom is too loud or there's too much happening around him. He typically becomes frustrated when instructions are not clear or he feels overwhelmed. Anthony is fortunate to be within a cultural context in which his family and community value education and inclusion for all students. The supportive culture helps Anthony receive the encouragement and services that he needs to do well in school and in the community. The physical environment in which Anthony fulfills his role as a student is in the classroom and in the OT therapy room, where he receives services under his IEP plan. This provides a natural setting for learning. The social environment includes his teachers, peers, and OT, who are all caring, understanding, and kind. This creates a supportive environment for Anthony to learn and engage in. As an OT working in a school-based setting, Jane chooses to use the person, environment, occupation model to guide her in her practice.
The PEO model details the relationship between the person, environment, and occupation and how they interact to result in occupational performance. When the 3 factors interact effectively and there are no barriers to performance, confluence or goodness of fit occurs. A poor fit between any of these 3 factors will impact occupational performance, and that is when the occupational therapist, like Jane, would evaluate the situation and intervene as necessary. According to the PEO model, tasks are meaningful and comprise greater occupations, which are also meaningful. Activities are not meaningful but are critical in completing tasks and occupations. In this case, the person is Anthony. It is important to consider his mind, body, and spirit according to the PEO model. This includes his values and interests, skills and abilities, and his life experiences. As an 8-year-old, he doesn't really have too many life experiences, but he definitely has plenty of interests. Anthony is part of many different environments, but he is most frequently at home and at school, although there are barriers to his participation in both environments. We will be focusing on barriers to his social participation and education in the classroom. Anthony mainly participates in the occupations of ADLs, play, education, and social participation. Anthony has deficits in formal education as a second grader and struggles in the occupation of social participation with peers and friends at school.
An example of intervention using the PEO model can be applied when focusing on Anthony's occupation of education. The task in this example is completing an assignment. The activities that comprise this greater meaningful task are writing, comprehending, and reviewing once the assessment is complete. An intervention that will target Anthony's process skill deficit in the area of heating could be breaking down the assignment or worksheet into smaller sections and implementing a movement break or reward in between each section. These rewards or breaks could be in the form of time allowed on the trampoline or water breaks. Jane also uses the Occupational Therapy Practice Framework, also known as the OTPF, to guide her interventions. According to the OTPF, OTs work with children in the school using interventions that focus on creating and modifying the person, environment, or occupation. This generally means interventions are in the form of activities or preparatory methods and tasks. For example, when working with Anthony on his social interaction skills, Jane may use a preparatory task like practicing with emotion cards. Jane will show Anthony a card with a picture of people expressing different emotions, and Anthony will have to identify how the person feels. Through this, Jane is aiming to improve Anthony's occupational performance in social interactions by helping him to understand the emotions his peers may express. Through OT, Anthony is able to better participate in formal education and social interaction occupations. These services will not only benefit his performance in school, but he will carry these skills with him throughout the rest of his life. Overall, occupational therapy plays a critical role in school-based settings and promotes healthy development for all children.